Level 0 in Dungeons and Dragons. What is it? How does it work? And why would you even want to do this in the first place? Well, I'm here to give you the full rundown and a whole bunch of options to see which one might feel right for your table. I even homebrewed a simple level 0 system that I'm sharing with you guys in a free PDF that I'll get into in a minute. I also want to say that I made this video because of the overwhelming response that I got from it, from the video that I made that's so far the #1 on this channel about what level to start your campaign off. I always feel like starting off at level 1 is a pretty cool way to go. I explain it all in that video, but so many people, and I referenced it in the video that I've done before of level 0, and all of you want to see it. So I listen to you guys in the comments, and I love seeing the response whenever you tell me what you want to see. So here it is. And I'm making a second level 0 video later this week to really showcase how it works. But basically, level 0 is a great way to double down that origin story for each character or the group as a whole. So let's get into it. What is level 0? A level 1 character has a class. They did something at some point to get these features of their level 1 class. The rogue wasn't always sneaky enough to get those sneak attacks. The sorcerer didn't always have a hold of that natural inborn power of theirs. And that wizard has got to read some books. The barbarian isn't pissed off enough yet. You get the idea. How your character got these abilities is a huge part of their backstory and a huge part of the flavor of how you even play that character throughout the whole campaign. And yes, trust me, I know about players not giving you enough of their backstories, but if you play at level 0, you're making them play in their backstory. But if you want help inspiring and nudging those players to give you a backstory, I have multiple videos I'll link down in the description and 2 free PDFs so you can download to help them out too. So you can handle this level 0 thing in multiple ways and start off at different points in the timeline of your campaign. I have ran level 0s where the characters were teenagers or even small kids, and that was the starting point. And then whenever it came time for them to hit level 1, we did a little fast forward. Or you can start it a little closer to when they're actually going to be level 1 and have them have that moment where they were training or they're about to be level 1, and then as soon as it happens, it's less of a time jump. Or you can start them in the current timeline and literally have them go through and experience those things that trigger them into being level 1, and it actually happens and they're level 1 and you keep going. But no matter what method you choose, they're going to start and go into level 1 with a lot more behind it, not just individually, but as a group as well. Even if you only do level 0 for 1 session, this is going to give you a lot more immersive experience than somebody who just wrote it and sat down with their character sheet and some backstory they created. But regardless of what time frame you choose to do this, you still have to figure out how to run a level 0. So how does it work? There's 3 methods that I've used here, and the last one I have created just for you guys from the outcry of this video. It's something that I've done, but I never officially systemized it or anything, and it's something that I would never just want to throw out to you guys, a bunch of random tips that leaves you kind of confused. I wanted to really polish it off for y'all. And I'm releasing a whole video over that system in a few days here, and it'll be linked down in the description. The first method here is for you to actually build those level 1 characters just like you would in any other campaign that you ever would. Just act like you're going to start off at level 1, but then you take those character sheets as the Dungeon Master and you just nerf them a little bit and peel it back. Basically, you're making baby versions of those level 1 characters, and you're restricting spells, not giving them access to all of their class features. Nerfing their class features, reducing how much damage they can do, reducing how much health they have. Now, I know I'm being really vague here, but this is how I did it the first time I wanted to try out this level 0 thing. I wanted them to play their character in like their teenage years. So I knew they'd have similar abilities to what their ranger abilities were going to be, but I just dialed it back. They were using a short bow, but they weren't really that good with it, and they only dealt 1d4 damage. Little tweaks here and there, and again, I'm being vague because I don't know how far back in time you want to go to these things. Are they kids, or are they about to be level 1? And this is why I created the third system here in the first place, to make it an actual full-blown system that's a little bit more clear-cut and less vague. So we'll get to that in a minute. But the second option here is one of my absolute favorites, and it is my personal default. Every single time I run a campaign, I want to do this thing. It is a flashback sequence. Brennan Lee Mulligan, I did a whole video on a bunch of DM tips that I learned from him. He does a flashback sequence at the start of Fantasy High. A link for that too will be down in the description to see a live version of this. But my very next campaign that I started, I tried this and I loved it. My players loved it. It was awesome. So here's a literal play-by-play of what I did my first time doing this and how it went. Basically, they were all level 1 players with those slight little nerfs to their health or how many spells they had access to if they were casters. And I ran a quick one-on-one or in small group sessions with each of them. Keep in mind, as a Dungeon Master, whenever you do this, the hype of the start of the campaign is high, and you want to keep that going, and you don't want to stay on one player for too long because other players can zone out. So really make sure that every second that you're doing this thing is entertaining or extremely important. Keep those players on the edge of their seats. So here's the rundown. This is a 5-player group, and I did a flashback in time to where one of the 2 twin warlocks was making their first pact with their patron. I was able to role play their patron for the first time before the pact was made, and I gave them a very devious choice. Myself and all the other players watched in anticipation to what the player would do. Like I said, this put everyone on the edge of their seats, because if I put this player on the hot seat, what were they going to get? I then shifted over to the druid and put them through a test by their own mother to see if they were worthy. Just a little bit of RP to set the tone, and then I went right into a puzzle to see if she could become one with nature. She came up with a super creative solution that had an epic reveal of her first powers for the first time. Then a flashback to the other warlock of the group's gnome father, who snuck in hints of foreshadowing that he was actually a secret agent of this whole big thing. And I had some secret little clues that I weaved in there during this flashback. This was a great time to insert some comedy roleplay moments as I roleplay his small little gnome siblings picking on him. But time out. There are two huge things that are more important than you realize going on here. One is this one-on-one roleplay between just me and one player to let them warm up and get into their character. It's not as intimidating, especially for those less experienced role players, to just roleplay with me as I roleplay with them. It is a lot easier for not having to compete on what to say, and it's just me and them. And then once they're comfortable in that skin, they're able to open up more whenever it does get to the whole group. And the second thing is it ties them into those characters in their backstory that they've written in their backstory. If they say they have a family, if they say they have a best friend or something, you could roleplay that best friend, and then they actually feel more connected to them than just writing it down on a piece of paper. And that's also how you can figure out what to do for these flashback sequences, is whenever they're finished writing their backstories, go and find a moment in there and play it. Here comes some more examples for you. For the ranger, I really threw her into the fire. All these players, by the way, in this example, were first-time players that never played the game before. I described a scene where them as a child was practicing archery in this makeshift training course that they made in the back of their house. But then, out of nowhere, I told her to roll for initiative. She was all by herself, so this was quite strange, as I then described a tentacle monster, an aberration of some kind, emerged from the forest. I started the battle music and very specifically told this player that this thing would probably kill them if it touched them, just once. So now they were in a dead sprint to their lives as all the rest of the players were in shock at the table, wondering if this person was going to die or not, as they now sprint back to the household to try and get safety from their parents. Then I ran through a very fast-paced combat where their father came out of the house to try and save her, and then he got in a rough situation that then her mother came out and saved everyone. Really showed that her mom was a badass that was important later on in the campaign that would come back around. But that player was sweating and asked, like, what would happen if I died? I don't know. Then I circled back around to those twin warlock sisters a little closer. Originally, it was way back when they first got their pact, and then it was now when they're in a super sketchy meeting with their boss. The rest of the players didn't really know what was going on because they were working for a very suspicious figure that the other players didn't know, so they just watched in wonder. The players knew this was a high-tension meeting, and if they spoke the wrong way, something really bad would happen with this guy. In this player's backstory, there was a character that was really important to them. It literally saved their character's life, and it was part of their best friend growing up since childhood, but they wrote in that they died tragically in front of them in their arms, and they were never going to be able to see them again. But this is a moment for me to be able to role play that character for them. So in their flashback, it was flashback before that character died, and they were shocked that they were actually getting to play with this character that they were so close with. If we started in live current events, I would not have been able to do that, but this was a really cool moment. As soon as I saw that really important character in their backstory, I knew I wanted to be able to role play them, and they said something sweet and said, see you next time, and just like something so simple that they were like, oh my God. And they knew that that was the last time they saw them. Oh, just got chills. But that's the kind of stuff that I love with these flashback level 0 stuff. On a lighter note now, we flash back to the rogue and that gnome warlock, who is a much more recent timeline. Again, we flashbacked way a long time ago. Now we're a little bit closer now, and they were on a secret mission to go steal something from some guards. It was some hilarious hijinks that occurred with those two characters trying to go steal a sleeping bag from a guard. But that's the idea of these flashbacks. As the dungeon master, you want to get that emotional spectrum and keep it like a roller coaster, changing things up. I went funny and then went scary and then back to funny and then serious, and you just keep changing it up to give them a full spectrum of their backstories that they get to play in. Now for this third system, this is my own personal homebrew thing that I made just for you guys from all this interest that you had in this level 0 thing. Basically, I took what I've been doing for years on how to make level 0 characters and turned it into a very simple system that step by step walks you through how to make half a character, which is basically a level 0 character. They have half as much stuff as they would from their level 1 version. So that makes this very, very easy for brand new players as well. well to be able to make a character, because it's actually easier to make a level 0 character. And then once they have that, they play it and they all hit level 1. You actually just add on to that level 0 character and now they're level 1. I have a full video where I walk you through it step by step on how to make a level 0 character, and the card for it will be right here. But if you're watching this live, I haven't made it yet, so whenever I post it on Wednesday, I'll make sure to update it and it'll be right there. And I have the really simple, completely free PDF down in the description as well. It's totally free. It's one page that literally shows you how to make that level 0 character. Now, I normally don't ask you guys to do this, but subscribe and really turn on that notification bell, because the bell is what lets you know whenever I post videos. If you subscribe, it actually does almost nothing unless you're in your subscription tab of YouTube. But turning on the bell lets you know whenever I post videos, and it really does help as soon as I post a video for you to watch it from beginning to end. It really helps the algorithm and all that kind of stuff, and I really would appreciate it. And it lets you know when that level 0 video drops. I post videos twice a week, every Sunday and Wednesday. So this is technically a Sunday video, and next Wednesday is that level 0 video. But again, everything will be linked down in the description once that all goes live. So if you like the stuff I do here and you want to support what I do and help me be able to do this more and more, think about joining my Patreon, where I update a ton of my rewards. I just updated all my reward tiers with a lot more stuff, including these huge monthly PDFs that I'm doing. I'm about to update those as well. Every single month I make a huge PDF and spread it across my reward tiers so you can get your hands on however much you want. And I also want to thank a few very, very dedicated patrons of mine. Edric Fiance and Kraken were the first 2 Platinum Dragons here on this channel. The Traveler, Agent Pink Pony, Sinjum, and Zachary C. all have been patrons for over 1 year now. That's absolutely crazy. So thank you guys, and thank all of you for making this thing possible and believing in me this much. So link to Patreon's right here. Link to that level 0 video once it comes out will be right here. And until next time, stay creative, think outside that box. Peace.